My wood stove needs a new rope gasket on the door. Let me show you. Here's the rope gasket on my door. It's probably about 3 years old now, and it's got a few areas that are worn out to the point that I need to get it replaced. Let me get this door off of here, get it over to an area where I can work on it a little bit easier, and I'll show you what it looks like a little bit closer up. This is how easy it is to remove this door. You just grab it, lift, and away we go. Okay, I got a padded surface here we're going to work with. Okay, now let me show you some of the problem areas I was telling you about. All right, I'm going to give you a little closer look at the rope gasket on this door and some of the areas that are the problem areas. This is the opening side of the door. That's the hinge end down there. And you see on the rope here, right here, it's worn down. It's actually wearing away. And it's even worse up in this corner over here. You go over to the corner over on this side, it just is really getting flattened out. And it's not giving the door a good seal. And the biggest issue you have when the door doesn't seal very well is it's harder to control the burn of the wood. It lets more air in, it burns hotter and quicker, so it's a lot less efficient. And so we have a couple of warm days here, so I think I'm gonna work on getting this fixed right now because I can't do this when the stove is really hot. And one other thing I just noticed is this glass piece has its own gasket as well. If you can see it up through there with the glass, and these screws hold in place. I don't expect that gasket to have to be replaced, except I see up here the glass looks like it's slid out of position and it's just barely in contact with the gasket there. So I'm going to loosen up a couple of these screws around the glass, get that glass repositioned, and that'll probably be a big help too. So let's get started. We're going to get this old gasket out, clean it up. I have a couple of tools ready to go here. I have a couple screwdrivers, some scissors, got the new gasket material. I've got a little bit of a wire wheel to help clean up the groove where the gasket sits, the new adhesive for it, pair of gloves, rag. Got some wet newspaper there. I'm going to use that to clean the glass. I'll show you how that works too. I'm going to start by repositioning this glass to where it's supposed to be, and I figured out how it got out of position. A couple of these screws are loose right now, so it's not holding the glass where it should be. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen them all, reposition the glass carefully. That one was tight, that one is okay, that one is okay, that one is okay, this one's loose, that one was okay, and this one's really loose. Okay, and this one's all right. So should be able to just slide this back. Try to loosen these up just a touch more. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. I think I'm gonna take this one off. Looks like a bunch of ash material has fallen in there. Might be keeping it from getting a good seal. Let's take a look here. Oh, I see. This has its own gasket there too. So I'm going to make sure this gasket has its position like it should. Looks like this gasket may have fallen out of position too, so get that there. Make sure, okay, that's in a pretty good position, I think. So I'm going to tighten these back down. That part will be done. Okay, this particular door has two restraining screws with a little piece of metal to hold the two ends down together. It's a little bit unique, but looks pretty simple to figure out. So we'll take these two screws out, take that metal bar off there, take the old rope gasket out. Okay, so that held it down. Let's see how they had it. Yep, see how there's one end. And there's the other end. And boy, I tell you, you can see the old adhesive material there is pretty much worthless. That was no struggle whatsoever to remove this old. This is the factory one that came with the stove. There is next to nothing holding on to, next to nothing on there. Especially on the, it's just, that's bad. So this will be much better when I'm done with it. So I'm just going to take my flat blade screwdriver, do a little scraping, and try to scrape out if whatever is left of the old gasket material, which isn't much. Most of it's stuck to this. That's actually pretty bad. I mean, look at this. It's just like powder. So I'm just gonna get my mask on, run over it with this wire brush, and we'll be ready to go. Okay, it was really nothing I could scrape with the screwdriver. It's pretty well cleaned up just for just a little bit. So getting the corners as best I can. Well, I don't know if I should be impressed or not, but this is as clean as a newborn baby's bottom. It's gonna take, I got a little wet rag here. I gotta get this, a little bit of residue out of the corner. See the residue I'm taking out of the groove. Guess if you use a white rag, you can make anything look dirty. Still coming out dirty. I am really surprised that rope gasket even sat in there. It looked like it was just ready to fall out. It just about fell out. That is super, super clean. Just gonna run a dry rag across here. I wanna make sure this is completely dry before I continue. Still some black residue coming up off of it. Don't know if that'll ever stop, but I'm gonna make sure at least it's dry. Yeah, getting less residue now, so that's a good sign. That is super clean. I mean, you can look at this thing. This is dirty. I'm going to clean this in a minute, but the channel where that rope sits, couldn't be happier with how clean that's turning out. Okay, so this gasket material that I use, seems like everybody has a different way of doing this, but I'm going to follow the instructions on the back of this. So it says on here to put the cement in the groove, place the gasket in the channel, and close the door securely for 2 hours or until dry. So that's what I'm going to do. Might wait an hour or two after that to make really sure that it's dry before I start a fire. I have a wet rag here available if I have anything to wipe up. I have the new material here, which according to the manufacturer's instructions, it's the correct size, which is a 5/8 inch gasket, and this is a 9-foot piece. So I've got a old heavy shears out of my shop I'm going to use to trim it once I get it in place. Okay, here we go. Put some in there. Make sure I get the corners really well. All right, looks good. So with this stuff, just gonna lay it in there. I'm not gonna bunch it up, stretch it too far. I'm just kind of lay it in place. Start right here, just like the original one came out. Just gonna set it in there gently. Just keeping in mind, get it in the groove, don't stretch it. Make sure it's down in the corners really nice. And just make my way around. Making sure it doesn't twist as well, that'd be a bad thing. Okay, I'm going to turn the corner. I'm going to cut it. Put this back down. Got a little sloppy stuff coming up, so I'm going to wipe that off right away. Put this bar back down over the two ends. That's kind of a neat design, actually. There's that one. I like this little design here. That's a pretty good idea. Makes a nice and tight area where those two ends come together. All right. Little excess goop coming up there. Everything else looks really good, so I'm going to move on to the next part where I'm going to clean the glass before I put the door back on since I have it out. The best way to do this is to take some damp newspaper. Make sure this glass is cool. You can do this at any time during the winter, but make sure the glass is cool first. But I don't know, you can probably see that this is all it takes to clean this stuff up. A lot of times I'll use newspaper to light my fire, and I got the newspaper sitting right there. See how easy that cleans up? Down in the corners. And I'll take some dry newspaper and act a little bit like a little bit of a buffing action to get the remaining residue off. And that's all you got to do. That's it. Let's put this back on the stove. So slip this back on like it came off on the two door pegs, hinges. There we go. Now the instructions did say to take a newspaper. Let's see if this works. Close the door with the newspaper like this. That way, if any of that adhesive should come out, it won't be adhered to the stove later on when I go to open this up. There we go. That's that. We're going to wait the time required according to the directions. Come back in a little bit, see how it looks. So with my YouTube channel, I can look at the analytics of all the videos that are put out there for you guys, and I see that 99% of you that watch these videos don't subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Just take a moment to subscribe. That'd be great. 99% is an unbelievable number that don't subscribe, don't put the thumbs up or nothing. I get thousands of views and only a couple of subscribers. I really appreciate it. If that could change, please consider it. Well, enough time has passed. Let's check it out. Let's see how it looks. Nothing stuck to the newspaper. It's fantastic. It's all pretty well set the way it looks. Really happy with how that worked out. Well, I'm going to wait a couple more hours just to be double sure that this thing is good and set and dried, and I'm going to light a fire for this evening.